Well, it's around about that time. Haven't had an episode like this in such a long time, and the reason why I've got my camera off is not because thankfully there's an air conditioning problem and there's mist everywhere, but because I happen to have the Olympics going on the TV behind me. And we do have a lot to talk about, though, because obviously there has been some cricket action taking place all around the world. Some good stories, some bad stories, one very sad story, and we will, of course, talk about that and everything else. But as usual, without further ado, it's time for us to take our little trip off to the boundary. Yes, people, welcome once again to the corner, and the title says it all. This is episode 61 of the Off to the Boundary show. Now, obviously, with the Olympics taking center stage at the moment, a lot of great stuff happening. Team GB winning a hefty haul of medals. South Africa also doing their bit, and India as well, winning a few medals. There was a huge controversial incident, of course, when Vinesh Phogat, the Indian wrestler, who was primed to make history by potentially winning either a silver or a gold in wrestling, was sensationally disqualified for being over the weight limit by a mere 100 grams. Our hearts go out to her, and hopefully she will come back stronger. The only problem is, I'm not too sure that she will be able to completely recover from this. This might very well be her last Olympics, but you know, as they say, when a door closes, a window will open, and we do have the 400-meter hurdle semi-finals going on. Alistair Chalmers of Great Britain among the sprinters, but we're here to talk about cricket, obviously, and I am waiting for some people to come right in. And I will take a look at a few comments, of course. We've got Chelsea fan in the building, who's, of course, a regular contributor in the chat, but also Miss Melina in the building. Very proud Canadian of Sri Lankan heritage. Good evening. And basically saying Sri Lanka winning something, nothing like the old cricket team we once had. And we are going to go on to that, of course. And I am, of course, waiting for some people to join in. And hopefully we will have some people coming in. And we should be having Mr. B and maybe one or two others coming in. And if there's anyone who would like to join in, and Melina, especially if you'd like to join in, if you have a big interest in cricket, you are more than welcome to ask me for the link, and I'd be happy to send it to you. Although I do understand that where you are, it'll be lunchtime and you might be busy working. So in any case, thanks for coming in to the chat. Now, of course, though, I did say that we have some very sad news with which we start this episode, and this will be a nice segue to maybe get some people joining in the chat with some in the program with some of their memories. And of course, one of English cricket's finest ever sons, greatest ever players, passed away this Monday, 3 days after turning 55. And I will, in fact, share an article right now which will basically discuss everything about him. And as an England cricket fan growing up in the 90s, he was one of my favorite players. I even had the pleasure of speaking to him when he was on an interview show on television, and he was not exactly very expressive, but he was appreciative of my compliments towards him. Very understated, dour and dapper. And we will, of course, now introduce him. Former English batsman Graham Thorpe, sadly passing away at the age of 55, 3 days after turning 55. He had played 100 tests for England between 1993 and 2005, as well as 82 one-day internationals. A stylish, but also correct left-handed batsman, scoring 6,744 test runs for England, including 16 centuries, career best of 200 against New Zealand in New Zealand at an average of 44.66. Current England skipper Ben Stokes was among those to pay tribute to Thorpe, along with the ECB and Surrey, while Michael Vaughan, his former captain, said that his former teammate was a legend who had gone far too young. And there seem to be no appropriate words to describe the deep shock we feel at Graham's passing. More than one of England's finest ever batsmen, he was a beloved member of the cricket family and revered by fans all over the world. Um, Skill was unquestioned. His abilities and achievements across a 13-year international career brought so much happiness to his teammates and England and Surrey County Cricket Club supporters alike. And later, as a coach, he guided the best of England's men's talent to some incredible victories across all formats of the game. The cricket world was in mourning on Monday, and we still probably may take a bit of time to recover from the loss. And of course, hopefully, with England set to play Sri Lanka, I want to see a full tribute to him, including black armbands. And I do also remember that, when Phil Hughes passed away, Australia had emblazoned the 405 number on the cricket ground when they played India. I'd love to see the ECB doing something similar to that. I know that Ben Stokes will definitely be planning something similar. Mr. B, good evening, and I will come to you, but I'll just read this article in full.
Yeah,
So,
be up to you, Mr. T, as well.
Yeah, and of course we got
some.
Yeah, and our hearts go out to his wife Amanda, his two children, his father Jeff, and all of his family and friends during this unimaginably difficult time. We will always remember Graham for his extraordinary contributions to the sport. Thorpe spent his entire first-class playing career at Surrey, whom he represented from 1988 to 2005. And of course, he was also with New South Wales as a player coach. Didn't really play any first team games for New South Wales, but did assist in the development of the likes of Stephen Smith and David Warner as world-class batsmen. I'm just glad that he didn't have anything to do with the whole sandpaper incident. Just goes to show sometimes you can create monsters. Surrey chair Ollie Slipper saying Thorpe is one of the great sons of Surrey. An overwhelming sadness that he will not walk through the gates of the Oval again. Steve Elworthy, the former South African international, who is now the Surrey chief executive, saying he achieved remarkable feats for club and country and was a hero to so many cricket fans, including both of us who are sitting in the chat right now. And Chelsea fan, I'm sure you might have memories of him. Thorpe was also a Chelsea fan, if I do remember correctly. Thorpe scored an unbeaten 114 in the second innings of his Test debut against Australia in 1993 and had a Test best of 200 not outmade against New Zealand in 2002. And as mentioned, he began his coaching stint in Australia after retiring from playing, working with New South Wales and playing club cricket for the Balmain Club in Sydney before joining the England setup from 2010 to 2022. Appointed head coach of Afghanistan in 2002, but was admitted to hospital with a series of illnesses before he could join the team. And of course, Jonathan Trott took his place, and the rest is history. BBC cricket correspondent Jonathan Aggers saying Thorpe was a mainstay of England's middle order throughout the 1990s and called him a gritty and unfussy left-hander. And after it had been announced that Thorpe had been admitted to hospital in 2022 with that serious condition, an infection, no details were given and there were no public updates until today. All of us were hoping that no news would be good news, but sadly our hopes were dashed. And England captain Stokes, of course, as you see here, wearing a special shirt in support of Thorpe in June 2022 after the PCA had said that he was seriously ill. The shirt had Thorpe's name and the number 564 on the back, signifying his status as the 564th player to be capped by England. And I do believe that 565 belongs to a certain Martin Paul Bicknell, who I will confirm that, of course. And two Surrey boys making their debut one after the other. Terrific. Stokes donned the shirt at the toss for the first test against New Zealand at Lords, Stokes' country of birth, and the country against whom Thorpe made his test best knock. He also posted a picture on social media of himself in that shirt on Monday, along with a series of heart emojis following the news about Thorpe's death. Former skipper Joe Root described Thorpe as a hero, a mentor, and so much more, and like Stokes was a part of the 2019 ODI World Cup squad, which was partly coached by Thorpe. He was there along with Trevor Bayliss and company as a part of the squad. And Vaughan, another skipper, saying, thank Thorpe for all the advice throughout my career, saying you were a great player and a brilliant teammate. You've gone far too young, but you leave as an England cricket legend. Ironically, this was the same captain who was actually willing to deny Thorpe his 100th test so that Kevin Peterson could have a debut against Bangladesh. But thankfully, it didn't materialise. Current opener Ben Duckett, also a lefty, said Thorpe's death was heartbreaking. Adding on Twitter, he was one of my heroes growing up, and I was fortunate to work with him. My thoughts go out to all his friends and family during this tough time. Former Sri Lanka captain Kumar Sangakkara describing Thorpe as a great man and legend, paying tribute to his fellow lefty. Thorpe was a Wisden Cricket of the Year winner in 1997, and the Sports Bible described him as one of England's greatest batsmen in a post on social media. Former England spinner Sean Udall. Such tragic news about Graham. Yep, such tragic news about Graham Thorpe. Played with and against the legend since the age of 10. Great player and a human being. David Gower, another dashing left-hander and former England captain, who surprisingly had a slightly inferior Test average. Thorpe remembered Thorpe for how good he was in all conditions. The 64 not out at Karachi in 2000, where England won the series for the first time in several years against Pakistan in Pakistan, and they had to do it in pitch black darkness.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Sitting up in the
commentary.
Yep. Old mates up in the commentary box 80 or 90 meters away and couldn't see anything live. Only the genius of TV cameras allowed us to see what was going on. But that was a good example of his grit, determination, will to win. He was very talented, and what bears that out are his figures against all comers. And also made a brilliant century against Sri Lanka in 2001. England won that series too. And the impression that we get, Steve, and I'm glad you're here because obviously, you, like me, remember Thorpe in many ways, is that he was a very big part in England's resurgence under both Nasser Hussain and Michael Vaughan. The idea was that for many fans like you and me, he never really got the credit that he deserved. And when he was left out from the 2005 Ashes series, I remember thinking to myself, what an absolute gutting thing. And obviously, there are people in the chat, Chelsea fans saying, yes, RIP Graham Thorpe, and also saying, big up Mr. B. Good to have you here.
Up, Chelsea fans.
Now, you take a look at the way he played, how when all his best knocks, most of his best knocks were in losing causes. The brilliant 124 against South Africa at the Oval was a series-saving knock. Obviously, ironically, that was when his old mate Nasser Hussain was ruled out with another injured finger, couldn't play. But Thorpe came back in. We never thought we'd see him again, but he came back with a bang. And you still therefore feel that instead of, being revered as the wonderful batsman that he was, he's still being overlooked basically by a lot of other, figures in the middle order who were a little bit more dashing perhaps and really, charmed and delighted the senses. But Thorpe had his moments. And what really made me admire him was, how he was able to battle his off-field demons and come through the other side. And you could perhaps say that his happiest times really were when he stopped playing cricket and became a coach. And you could tell that he was no longer tormented. But instead of also being bitter about being dropped for that Ashes series win, especially given how Ian Bell had a poor series in that particular series, he said, not a problem, I accept it. Good luck to the lads, and I'm going to walk off into the sunset and retire from all cricket. And he was magnanimous about it. And I don't know if I would have ever been that magnanimous if I were in his position. But you just have a measure of how wonderful a man he was. I think, when it comes to his greatness and his legacy, I'm reminded of, the words of Neil Diamond's song, Vincent. They did not listen. They're not listening still. I mean, they did not know how. Maybe listen now, and maybe they'll start to give him his well-deserved dues. And I think people who say that they absolutely loved him are probably lying in a way. But I've talked enough. What say
you? Yeah, pretty much agree with a lot of that, Manny. He's a talented player. You could say he's gritty, but he certainly had plenty of talent. Fantastic batsman. Dogged. I always remember that innings he done where he didn't actually get a boundary at all. He didn't hit a boundary. He got it all in singles, twos, and threes. That 100, I can't remember who it was against, but
it might have been Sri Lanka, I think.
Yeah, it might have been that, but
probably it might have been either Sri Lanka or Australia. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. But he's just, you can always depend on him. He came in. He was so hard to get out. Any team that bowled against him found it so hard to get him out. He was that great a player, and supposed to be a lovely guy as well. Everyone really got on well with him. A lot of the other players, I was looking at him on there the other day. Dominic Cork was in tears. He was a great mate of his, and a lot of the others, Atherton and Hussein and Butcher and all that. All great mates with him. And it's incredibly sad to hear the news. It was he's gone up to that great cricket pavilion in the sky, joining a lot of those other great players that we all know. Shane Warne, of course, Bob Willis, and many others that are up there now. Fred Truman, of course, and Richie Beno. The list goes on, really. Bradman. What a team they got up in heaven now. Crikey. Yeah, remarkable. But he was amazing, and never be forgotten. Fantastic player, and as you say, I hope they do tributes to him. I'm sure they will. In these upcoming matches and stuff. For the test and everything against Sri Lanka. I'm sure it'll be tributes to him and everything there. So, but yeah, he's given us a lot of great memories, and he certainly never will be forgotten.
Yeah, I certainly never will forgive him, and it was basically in Lahore. Yeah, it was actually against Pakistan in Lahore. He epitomized Hussein's call to fight with every sinew of his being in producing a stalemate sealing century that featured just a solitary boundary, and that was, of course, before Karachi. So again, it has to be said that he deserves the lion's share of the credit for some of the best victories that England have had under Hussein and Vaughan. And as I've said, maybe they will start to give him the credit that he deserves. And it's also quite pertinent to mention that when Andrew Miller made his tribute to him, he also made a point of mentioning that Thorpe was just unlucky to be a part of an England team that obviously was flattering to deceive, but also was up against some of the better bowling attacks in the world today. And obviously, when those attacks started to decline, his career also was, coming closer to the end. And I think it's also fair to say that given our continued propensity for middle order collapses, he would actually be a bit of a shoe-in to play in this Bazball team. Because, he obviously was gritty, but he knew how to add some style. He had all the shots, really. And it's just a shame that, of course, a lot of people are going to associate him with a lot of England disappointments. In the 97 Home Ashes series, I believe he dropped one of the Aussie batsmen. It might have been Matthew Hayden, if memory serves me right. I don't quite remember. That, of course, it might have been someone I don't remember. And, of course, England went on to lose that particular test en route to losing the series 3-1 before Phil Tufnell spun them out at the Oval to clinch a consolation 3-2 win. Yep, Middlesex legend, of course. I know that Thorpe was a Surrey boy, but at this particular point, county rivalries go out of the window. And, of course, he was a part of the 1999 ODI squad that needed to beat India to secure their spot in the Super Sixers after that disgustingly fixed game between Zimbabwe and South Africa, which ensured that the two African sides went through. And he was on the receiving end of a dreadful decision. I believe it was Javagal Srinath who was bowling round the wicket to him in that match at the Oval, and he was given out LBW. And many of the commentators were saying that decision from Javed Akhtar was an absolute shocker. No way that would have hit the wicket. And after Thorpe fell, you just knew that the end was near for England as they were, bowled out and drummed out of their home World Cup tournament. And, that, of course, was the end of Alex Stewart's reign as captain. Nasser Hussain came in. And, of course, after Hussain came in, we had that dreadful home series against New Zealand and a tough away series against India. But then things started to get better. And, of course, I don't want to speak about his marital troubles. And, of course, he found happiness again with a new lady and ended up being a stepfather to his partner's daughter and also having another child of his own. And you could see that after all of the torment, he was seldom happier. So it's just sad that he was never able to completely find the happiness and joy that he had while playing for England. Otherwise, he was also at the time not really the benefit of the help that he needed, given that now social media and mental health are two big buzzwords, and you just wonder. You just wonder. Not only was it a life taken too soon, but there's always going to be a part of me that feels that in every single way he deserved better. What say you?
Oh, definitely, Manny. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's and then and we also it's true that it's always said that you don't know what you got till it's gone, and this is never more true here. That he was a hell of a player, great guy, and and I'm sure everyone's really missing him. Obviously, especially the other players, his other mates, his family, of course, and a lot of people are, because he was incredible, and there's just so many we've lost these legends, and it's such a shame. And of course, with Bob Willis and everything, we see him in about that in the Blue for Bob with the prostate cancer and stuff. That was all really sad. I remember that a few years back when it obviously happened, 2019, that he passed away, and it was horrible. But of course, people like him, Shane Warne, were still young. I mean, 55 is still young, isn't it? So, and I think obviously Shane Warne, I think was he early 50s?
52.
I think 52. So. Yeah, it's no age at all, really, still. But yeah, it's very sad, and but yeah, I mean, there's obviously still, you still got their memories, and we all will still see the footage of these players, for some time to come. They'll always be remembered. So yeah, it's good, and I hope we can go on and win things for him. Really, England really do.
Yeah. Well, we'll stop talking about him now. I mean, not that I want to necessarily, but because we do have a show to do. But I think as well, the fact that he was able
Yeah,
to, play a big role in England's 2019 World Cup win at ODIs, I think it's wonderful how, sometimes you find that happiness and fulfillment and that reward as a coach that you never had as a player. And as with Rahul Dravid with India, Graham Thorpe had found that sometime in 2019 with England. He was, of course,
yeah,
unfortunate to be culled following that disastrous Ashes tour down under. But, his contribution to English cricket should never, ever be taken for granted. And I would definitely have loved to have seen him possibly, go back to Australia to become the batting coach there. And maybe his
yeah,
wisdom would have been, I mean, if they were half-baked enough to hire Graham Hick, surely another Graham Thorpe would have done really well. But
yeah, definitely.
obviously, of course, we are going to focus on the England Sri Lanka squads, and I think, as I said,
Oh yeah,
England will
yeah,
definitely make sure they wear black armbands in tribute to him for at least
yeah,
the first game, and definitely for the duration of the entire series. And I will, of course, give you an update on the England squad, of course.
yeah.
And
I know a few
obvious,
things about
yeah,
it.
yeah. We both had a lot to say about that, mate. But
Mm, yeah,
obviously, a lot of a lot of I wouldn't say controversy, but a lot of contention, definitely. And this is, of course, the big
yeah,
headline. Zach Crawley ruled out of the Sri Lanka test due to a
yeah.
fractured finger. And instead of Keaton Jennings, it will be Dan Lawrence set to open. Lawrence, of course, had been placed on standby. And sadly, without making his debut, although he did, I believe, have a substitute appearance in the third test against the West
Paddington.
Indies,
Yeah,
he's also out injured, and Ollie Stone will be replacing him.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
as
What
mentioned,
a shame! What a total shame, because he's still going to miss out now on a debut. And I mean, we don't know how long he's going to be out for. Will he actually play at all at some stage, Pennington? For being in the squad,
yeah,
and should be playing, he can't. And
it is going to be. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry, man. I was just going to say, really, he should have got his chance in that other one against the West Indies in any of those matches. So it's just a real shame for him, and I hope they do keep him now. I hope they keep him in mind and don't just discard him now. Because he's got to play some role. He's been there. He's been in the squad, and he should be playing. It's terrible.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
really
You know,
hate that.
I agree. You can't just dangle a carrot in front of him and then,
Mm,
end up taking it away and saying, sorry, that's the way it is. But, all we can
yeah,
do now is just hope for the best. And of course, as mentioned in the article, he sustained a hamstring injury playing in the 100. And hamstring injuries, as we all know,
yeah,
are very tough injuries from which you can recover if you possibly can. So hopefully he will recover from
yeah.
his injury. Going to be his first priority. I don't think he'll
I
play
hope
any
so.
more games at the 100. But if he does make a comeback to his first class his county side, then that would be perfect. But at the moment, England is going to have to soldier on without him. And
Yeah, yeah.
George
Brought
Wally Stone,
John Cox in as well.
yep, another spare batsman. So that means that Jennings's career is effectively over with England. And if I
Yeah,
were Jennings, I'd say, you know what, I'm not going to play for the Lions anymore. Go to hell, all of you. But it is what it is. And
yeah, yeah. That
details
really
here.
has
Crawley.
knocked you, isn't it, Manny? That really has knocked you, isn't it? All that with Keaton Jennings.
Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. But it is what it is, though. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
Jennings can continue to be content plundering runs for Lancashire and proving that he is still one of the
yeah.
top
Proving
opening
England
batsmen in the
wrong.
country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Crawley injured the little finger on his right hand during the 10-wicket win against the West Indies at Edgbaston last week
Mm,
when dropping a catch in the slips. It was confirmed as a fracture. And I'll tell you what, pinky injuries are the worst. They're so painful, and if you
yeah,
can't even
yeah.
move them,
I bet.
I remember
Mm,
I remember having to have surgery on my right pinky finger, and the doctor there did a magnificent job on it. It's now I can
yeah,
still bend it, but it still looks a little bit slightly displaced. But it's actually a lot better than it used to be. So I'm really grateful to the doctor there. And
yeah, yeah. Brilliant. Yeah,
so he's been ruled out of both the 100 and the Sri Lankan series, and he will hope
uh,
to return in time for
shame.
England's Test tour
Mm,
to Pakistan in October. Maybe there we'll see another
yeah,
special, dedicate that to Thorpe. We'll see. So Ben Stokes had to
yeah,
deputise as Ben Duckett's opening partner at Edgbaston, hitting a record-breaking 24-ball half century.
yeah.
But
Superb.
instead,
That was.
it will be Lawrence
Mm.
who will take up the role. Now, Lawrence has batted in
Yeah,
every
good
position
player
from
though.
numbers.
Good player.
Yeah, he's batted in every
Mm,
position from numbers 3 to 7 during his 11 tests, but not as a specialist opener. He's filled the role seven times in his first-class career, and this is also the added stupidity. Why would you want to
yeah.
shoehorn someone into that role, given that he has no pedigree as an opening batsman? That's what really irks me.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Whereas you
Lawrence has
say Jennings could have slotted into that role easily. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he's also a pretty tall bloke, around about 6'3" or 6'4", and sort of in the mould of a Crawley, you could say. Now,
yeah,
Lawrence has
yeah.
been England's spare batsman for the past year, but he hasn't played a test since Joe Root's final series as captain against West Indies in early 2022. So about 2 years, you can imagine. And so England's
Mm,
decision to promote a middle order batsman rather than drafting in a specialist opener further emphasises their interest in players' attributes rather than their outcomes at the county level. Whatever. And so at 23, Cox
yeah,
will start the series as England's spare batsman. His call up comes on the back of an excellent season, his first since joining Essex from his boyhood club, Kent. Hitting
yeah,
3 championship hundreds for Essex, making 763 runs at an average of nearly 70, and has just returned to competitive cricket with the Oval Invincibles after surgery on his appendix. He could
appendix. Yeah,
very well
yeah,
be the backup wicketkeeper on the Pakistan tour. Cox was out for a walk in Battersea Park with his partner when he learned of his call-up, initially missing Brendan
yeah,
McCullum's call. I got a text saying, "Give me a call back. It's Baz." He told Sky. I immediately called back pretty fast, just in case he asked someone else to join the squad. My profile picture on
yeah,
WhatsApp is me putting, and he basically asked,
yeah,
"Did you sink that putt?" He admitted that he hadn't even thought about the prospect of a test call-up, having previously been part of a T20 international squad 20 years ago. Cox said, "I've been thinking more about the white ball side of it. Just thought that there are so many good players out there, and I thought I'm not going to be in that yet, if ever, so to get this call was pretty awesome." ESPN Cricinfo revealed on Sunday morning that Pennington was a major doubt for the series after injuring his hamstring on the Northern Superchargers debut on Friday night. And Stokes suggested before the Edgbaston test that Pennington would be ready to go against Sri Lanka if selected, but he is now expected to miss the rest of the English summer, and the Superchargers have kept Pat Brown as cover. And Stone, whose last test came against New Zealand 3 years ago, has been plagued by injuries in the past 3 years, but he returns to the squad in Pennington's place. He has only taken 10 championship wickets at 47 this season, but he bowls with genuine pace and has 10 wickets at 19.4 in his 3-match test career to date. Sam Cook, the outstanding bowler in recent years in the CAT Championship, has been overlooked following his return from a hamstring injury. Matthew Potts will remain with the squad after running the drinks during the West Indies series. The first test will start on the 21st of August at the Emirates Old Trafford Stadium in Manchester. So Stokes, Duckett, Lawrence, Pope, Root, Brooke, Cox, Jamie Smith, the wicketkeeper, who's probably now secured his place after an impressive debut series against the West Indies. Chris Wokes, Mark Wood, Gus Atkinson, Shoaib Bashir, Matthew Potts, and Ollie Stone. And you know, the sad part is that some of these selections are pretty and omissions and overlookings have pretty much been as expected. What angers me is that Lawrence being promoted to open, if he flops, and this is going to be another, you know, big own goal, because why would you want to put a square peg in a round hole if you have ready-made people coming in? And if you are selecting Jennings for the Lions on a regular basis, and you know that he's capable, you might as well put him back in the squad. But I mean, apart from that, and obviously the Pennington omission with injury, some of these selections have been okay. I don't really think Ollie Stone's. I don't think Ollie Stone really deserves a place in this team on merit, given his form in the county championship of late. And I'm not too sure that simply overlooking county form is necessarily the best way to go about it. And I think, you know, England could set themselves up for trouble because Sri Lanka, as we will talk about later, are going through a bit of a resurgence right now.
Yeah,
well, I think Mr. B's Wi-Fi has sort of played tricks on him, and he will be coming back as soon as possible. And we've got Hanno saying I should check my DM, and I will check my DM. And yeah, so yeah, so not a very urgent message, but obviously, you know, something which has to be taken. And we do have Mr. B back, and let me guess, Wi-Fi trouble again, eh?
Yeah, the Wi-Fi, yeah, playing up again, yeah. What were you asking me there, Manny? I forgot, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, not an issue. Basically, what I was saying was that, you know, it's bad enough that Keaton Jennings has yet again been overlooked, and Dylan Payton might not get a chance. Matthew Potts also might not get a chance. Ollie Stone being recalled despite not being in good county form, and Dan Lawrence being shoehorned into opening the batting despite having never done it for England. I mean, you know, are we asking for trouble here?
Yeah, possibly. Are they this England again being bloody dumb? I don't know why. Why do they make things complicated? I really don't get it, Manny. You know, they got these instant replacements, as you say. Jennings, one of them. You know, they just don't go straight forward, do they? With something that's so simple as that. They want to try and put somebody, as you say, square peg into a round hole or something like that, you know, and it just won't work out. Well, I hope it does, but I don't think. I think there's going to be issues there, and you know, as you say, Sri Lanka are a bit on the up at the moment. You know, with obviously beating India, as we know. So it's. I don't think this is going to be quite so straightforward, this one. If England cock this up, you know, it's really, as you say, I've overlooked others, Sam Cook as well, you know. It's just strange, really, again, from England. It really is.
Yeah, well, obviously we are going to find out, get ourselves an idea of how well Sri Lanka will do. And sadly, I don't
Yeah.
think Hannah will be joining us, so it'll be just you and me and the chat. But here
That's
are
all
the
right.
Sri Lankan headlines here. Jeffrey van der Sey, who had a loan test back 2 years ago, has also been included in the squad along with the likes of right arm seamer Milan Rathanayake and all-rounder Nisala Tharaka in an 18-member squad for the three-match Test series against England. It also marks the return of Pathum Nissanka in the longest format. He also hadn't played a Test match since the middle of 2022 and had been displaced by Nishan Madushka at the top of the order. And leg spinner Jeffrey van der Sey, who played his lone Test back in June 2022 against Australia, has also been brought back. He had a great showing in the second ODI against India, and we will talk about that. A career best 6 for 33, brilliant spin bowler. A first call up for 33-year-old Taraka, who's played 107 first-class games, in which he's picked 257 wickets and scored 2,358 runs with a highest score of 107. So probably being selected as a bit of an all-rounder, maybe. His most recent performance of significance was for Sri Lanka A against Afghanistan A, where he took 6 for 42 in the second innings. And Rathanayake had been selected in the Test squad earlier for a one-off Test against Afghanistan, but hadn't gotten the game. Played 39 first-class matches, picked up 79 wickets, and also scored 633 runs with a higher score of 59. Rathanayake has been a consistent performer in the Sri Lanka A side. So Dhananjaya De Silva will lead the team. Plenty of experience, several former captains, of course. Kushal Mendes will be his deputy. And it's a pace-heavy squad, which includes Asitha Fernando, Vishwa Fernando, Kasun Rajitha, Lahiru Kumara, Taraka and Rathanayake as the fast bowlers. And Angelo Matthews, who, of course, was the Sri Lankan captain when they beat us in a home series in 2014. That was the first series after Kevin Peterson got dropped. He also finds a place in the squad. And certainly his experience will be very important for the team. Van der Sey, Ramesh Mendes, and Prabhat Jayasuriya are the main spin options. And Mendes and Jayasuriya have been their primary Test spinners over the past 18 months. Seems only like yesterday that Rangana Herath played his last Test for them. And although many of the players named in the squad are currently involved in the ODI series against India, which actually has been won by Sri Lanka with one to play, 6 Test specialists flew on Saturday to England to begin training. Vishwa also played 3 county championship matches for Yorkshire as a part of his own preparation. Vishwa Fernando, that is. The first Test between Sri Lanka and England gets underway on the 21st of August in Manchester, and the teams will travel to Lords for the second Test before finishing up at the Oval on the 6th of September. The 29th of August will be the second Test. So this is the squad. And as we were talking about, this time there are only 2 Fernandos, so it looks as though the South African selectors weren't able to hear the drums. But certainly a squad which is looking to ride off the confidence of and good feeling of their win over India. And the women have also done really well. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, I think this particular South African squad could very well spring a bit of a surprise, and the experience of the likes of Matthews and Karunaratne and Dinesh Chandimal and others will also prove to be very key. Decent blend of youth and experience. What say you about this squad?
Yeah, pretty much agree there, Manny. I mean, they look like they're coming on. I mean, did any of these players actually play in the World Cup? Obviously, the white ball thing, did they play in that T20? Or are they just all proper Test players, most of these?
Now, several of these players are actually currently playing in the ODI series against India at the moment. So, yes.
Right.
So,
because I can't remember a lot of these actually playing in the World Cup. All format, yeah.
No, quite a few people were there. Quite a few.
Oh right, there was.
Yeah,
there
quite
was
a few
few.
people. Quite a few people were there, obviously, and we were talking about the possibility of. Well, we didn't even know that they would be involved in it, but now, of course, they are pretty much.
No, because I mean, it's a bit of a flop for them that World Cup, really, wasn't it? And I don't think they they properly had a chance, really, because a lot of theirs were called off, their matches, weren't they, as well? So, with the rain and everything, it's a real disappointment for them. But I mean, they are sort of in transition still, but they're definitely coming through well. I mean, beating India, crikey, that's no mean feat, is it? So to beat India, amazing. But yeah, I think it could be a challenge. I really do. I don't think they're going to be a walkover. I think there's going to be a bit more about them than the West Indies had in a way. I think there's going to be more like with their bowlers, certainly the spinners and all that, going to cause us more problems. Yeah, I think some of their batsmen are pretty decent as well. So I think this could be a close one in a way. I don't think we're going to trample all over them somehow. Could be maybe a 2-1 or something, after this.
Yeah, so obviously, this series promises to be a little bit tougher, more competitive in theory than the the West Indies series, but we will have to find out. Only time will tell, of course. But we will see basically how they perform, and memories of 10 years ago will still be rife. Obviously, quite a few of the players, I think Joe Root might have been involved in that series. Jimmy Anderson, of course, was the unfortunate soul who was dismissed off the second to last ball in the second test to seal the win for Sri Lanka, and he was absolutely crushed that day. And maybe, I think no one will be more happy to see a series win than Jimmy, given that he's now, of course, England's bowling coach. So, obviously, we've got some... Chelsea fan also agreeing, saying that Sri Lanka should give England a good game. And this, of course, will be a nice segue into the Sri Lankan resurgence, as it were, because, I did, in fact, mention that the resurgence started basically with, India, with Sri Lanka shocking everyone by winning the Women's Asian Cup. I remember that particular tournament basically saying that... I couldn't see beyond an Indian win, even though Sri Lanka were the were the home team. India had to be the favourites, but I just want to make sure that I can try and find a link to that particular series, and just trying to make sure that I get something here. Of course, the update for the skipper Tamari Athapattu is that she will not be taking part in the T20 series against Ireland. I believe it's due to her own commitments with the 100, and I think she's earned her right to take a little bit of a break. But obviously, we're going to take a look at. So this is the article here from Cricinfo, and I will share it right now, and I will try to be as brief as I possibly can. And this, of course, took place quite some time ago. Obviously, this isn't the article. This was sort of
that's the main, isn't it?
Another analysis. No.
Oh no, it's the women's.
Yeah, it is the women. So I'm talking about the women's first. And I think it's fair to say that, that wonderful performance pretty much helped them, get the belief that they could do it. And obviously, we'll just take a look at the scorecard first. That'll sort of give us the story of everything. We don't need to go in depth. So the details of this particular match, of course, were that... India, the Indian women won the toss, and Harmanpreet Kaur had no hesitation in batting first. And when India batted, obviously, they were expected to do very well, but lost quite a few wickets in the middle order, including the skipper Harmanpreet herself for a mere 11. Vice captain Mandana top scoring with 60 or 47. Fine knock under the circumstances, but only 3 other batsmen batswomen, I should say, getting double figures. Shafali Verma with 16, Jemima Rodriguez with 29, and the wicketkeeper Richa Ghosh with 30. So nobody else really able to make much of a contribution there. And you couldn't see too many prolific bowling displays. Kavisha Dilhari taking 2 for 36. But, you probably have to say that under the circumstances, the bowlers did tie the batswomen down and really refused to let them play the shots they wanted to play. I mean, obviously, the economy rates may not necessarily suggest that, but I think it's fair to say, Sugandhika Kumari herself probably the most economical with 5.75 off her 4 overs, no wickets, of course, but they tied them down very well and didn't really allow them much of a chance to really do well. And of course, this particular innings was all about Chamari Athapathu, the skipper, and Harshita Samara Vikrama, the middle order batswoman. 61, 69, a huge partnership of 87 for the second wicket, and another unbroken partnership of 80 for the third between Sama Vikrama and Kavisha Dilhari. It would have been, if given how Dilhari was smacking the bowling around and really, also contributed with the ball, I would have given her the Player of the Match award, the Woman of the Match. Instead, it went to Samana Vikrama. And I also remember saying that Sri Lanka's biggest problem was their over-dependence on their skipper, Athapathu. But now we see some other players willing to step up to the plate and do really well for themselves. Only Gunaratne at the top of the order went out early, run out, unfortunately. But, none of the Indian bowlers had any joy, and maybe it was a bad toss to win for India. Maybe they should have fielded first. But, this fine win obviously will, give Sri Lanka a lot of confidence. I know there are a couple of in-depth articles about this, and I don't want to talk about them because that'll take too much time. But, this, you can't underestimate the impact of a win like this, can you? Because we all think that when it comes to women's cricket, India are the Asian team and everyone else is just, in their shadow. So for Sri Lanka to come out and beat them after, sneaking into the final, it has to be said, via the back door with a very tight win over Pakistan in the semi-final, this really should have given the team a great deal of confidence, and maybe Sri Lanka can start to have belief again after all the turmoil that they had undergone in the months prior to that.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like the men, they're obviously coming up on the up as well. The women, aren't they? So
yeah, but ladies first, though. So you have to give credit to the ladies as gentlemen.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, this is saying no mean feat again because to beat the India women, I mean they're pretty much dominant, in the women's game, aren't they? So, but this is amazing from them. So. Something's happening in Sri Lanka, that's for sure at the moment. There's something going well for them, isn't there, at the moment? So, let's hope they don't do it against us. The men's ones in that series, that'd be that wouldn't be good, would it? But I mean, no. But I mean, it's all good. I mean, you got to give them credit. They're going really well. I mean, because you think about all that time ago when they were real. Force in cricket, Sri Lanka. The big players they used to have, the Muralitharans and all that, and Malinga and the other De Silva, Jayasuriya and all that. People like that, players like that, incredible. Jayawardene, Sangakkara. Incredible players, and it's been a while since they've been, that sort of force again. So I think the men's and the women's are really, really going well, and good luck to them. I hope that they do carry on.
Yeah, obviously Mel, who is of Sri Lankan descent, saying nothing like the old cricket team that was once at its pomp, but there are some signs that they're starting to recover. And of course, we are now going to focus on the men's team, of course. Obviously, the T20 series didn't quite go to plan, with India winning that 2-0 with a tied. they actually won that series 3-0. The third ODI T20 was tied, but India won the super over, so that was a 3-0 win. But of course, the first ODI between them featured a tied result, and there are no super overs in ODIs. Player of the match, of course, Dunith Wellalanga, the left-arm spinner, who also starred with the bat. Sri Lanka, of course, batting first after their captain Kushal Mendis won the toss and elected to bat first. Pathum Nissanka at the top of the order, starring with 56, and wickets being lost in the clump. It was actually Charith Asalanka who captained the team. I stand corrected, but wickets being lost in a bit of a clump, and then Wellalage and Hasaranga coming together to help their team out. An excellent partnership. Some excellent partnerships here. Basically, a 40-odd between the lower order wickets, which helped them recover to 230 for 8. And of course, among the bowlers, Arshdeep Singh and Akshay Patel, who starred in India's T20 World Cup win, taking 2 apiece. Mohammad Siraj, Shivam Dubey, Kuldeep Yadav, and Washington Sundar taking a wicket each, and Shubman Gill's alone over, going for 14. And again, you could say that India tied down Sri Lanka, but Sri Lanka also repaid the favour. Captain Sharma's innings of 58 pretty much going in vain because none of the other batsmen were able to really respond in kind. A few pretty 20s and 30s, but nothing really substantial. Washington Sundar was promoted at the top to number 4. Don't ask me why. Disappointment for the likes of Virat Kohli and Rahul Lokesh, the wicketkeeper. Akshay Patel doing well with 33, but a rather sedate innings by his own expectations. And as far as the bowlers are concerned, skipper Asalanka and Hasaranga picking up 6 wickets between them, 3 apiece, and the other bowlers also starring. And of course, Wellalage, with his all-round performance, was the player of the match. And so India just unable to get the win they needed. Arshdeep Singh, in fact, was the last man out, trapped in front of LBW by Asalanka to herald the tie. And all Arshdeep had to do was get bat on ball, and sadly, he couldn't do that. But you could very well say that this tied test was the beginning of the start of the self-belief that Sri Lanka were able to get back. This was, of course, Gambia's first ODI series as coach, and it didn't have the most auspicious of starts. I'll just briefly go through the second and third matches so that we can have a microcosm of the whole series. And the second ODI, of course, Sri Lanka batting first again. And once again, Asalanka winning the toss, opting to bat. And no centuries here, but very useful knock of 40 down the order from Kamindu Mendis off 44 balls. Avishka Fernando with 40 at the top of the order. Some pretty scores in between, but nothing very substantial, although fairly useful, you could say. And Sri Lanka once again getting 240 for 9. They lost Pathum Nissanka off the very first ball, with the batsman nicking to the wicketkeeper off Mohammad Siraj. And 3 wickets, of course, for Washington Sundar, 2 for Kuldeep Yadav, a wicket apiece for Patel and Siraj. But it was the Van der Say show, and basically Vander says, dance to my tune, and that's what Vander said, and that's what India did. Only Sharma again and Patel and Shubman Gill doing themselves justice, with the others having some very poor scores. A couple of ducks, which didn't really help. And 6 wickets for Van der Say, another 3 for Asalanka to go with his 3 from the previous game. Of course, Hasaranga was injured and couldn't play any further part in the series. But the bowlers once again doing really well, and the spinners really holding sway. And the final game pretty much saw India further collapse. And we're going to find out who was the one responsible. And yep, let's go to the scorecard. Sri Lanka once again batting first, winning the toss. Everything that could go right went right for them in this series. And Avishka Fernando, 96 for him, very tragically trapped 4 short of a century. But Nissanka with 45 and Mendis with 59 at the top of the order. Still frustratingly a huge clump of wickets being lost in the middle order, including Samara Vikrama for a golden duck. But then Kamindu Mendis with some more useful runs lower down the order to propel them to 248 for 7. 3 wickets for Rian Parag. No one really outstanding, else really outstanding among the bowlers. And the batsmen, it's as if they'd forgotten to play spin, Steve. Top score 35 from Sharma again. Easily the best batsman, but that is no consolation. 30 from Washington Sundar. 20 from Virat Kohli, but a disappointing series by his high standards. And no one else contributing. And 5 for Welalage this time around. He was I think he was the player of, he wasn't the player of the match, that went to Fernando, but definitely the player of the series for his excellent bowling, very consistent, and also his fine batting. Van der Sar chipping in with a couple, Teakshan, another off spinner. And it was effectively the Sri Lankan spinners, if you take a look at it, who really spun. Well, I think once again, Mr. B's Wi-Fi is playing, tricks on him, but I'll wait for him to come back and just find out where he is. Hopefully he should be back. Yeah, but obviously I was sort of so basically my synopsis there was that India went into the series quite complacent on the back of their T20 ODI, a T20 International World Cup win, and also won the ODI series fairly comfortably. But that complacency, of course, from the ODI World Cup runners-up has pretty much come back to bite them in many ways. And I'm just trying to reach out to Steve. Hopefully, he's still available. And so a lot of problems for India, and sadly, a large number of their batsmen seem to have forgotten how to play spin. So several of those players have also retired from T20 cricket to concentrate on ODIs and tests. And it will be interesting to see if Gautam Gambhir, in his very young stint as India coach, will be able to recover from this and really find a way to move on. And it's a pretty difficult start for Gambhir right now, and he has to try to find a way to recover from this, and here's hoping that he will. And just still trying to reach out to Steve. I hope he'll be back. Maybe his laptop has died, or his PC has died, and he's trying to get back in. I don't know. But I'll wait for him to come back and basically say that, Sri Lanka are starting to, come together right now, and they seem to have found a really good spin attack that can help them win matches. And, England haven't exactly been the best players of spin. And Joe Root's struggles, not struggles necessarily, but his battle against Gudakesh Moti in the test series against the West Indies will probably give Sri Lanka a little bit of confidence heading into this one. I know that we did say that the squad was a little bit pace heavy, but the spinners, if they're selected, should have a bit of a role to play. And we will, of course, talk a little bit about more about that and get Steve's analysis once he comes back. Now it is, of course, time to talk about the West Indies South Africa Test Series, which will be starting very quickly. And in fact, I believe it's already started. In fact, an update, of course, from this is that Sri Lanka, under Tender Bavuma, have won the toss and chosen to bat. And an update here, of course, is that so I will, of course, share this particular share this update from this match, because obviously we were discussing the squad in the group chat. And basically what happens here is that with South Africa winning the toss, they've gone with Aiden Markram and Tony de Zorzi at the top of the order, Tristan Stubbs and Bavuma, the captain, in the middle order. David Bedingham, of course, continues his brilliant test start with selection for the squad, and rightly so. And hopefully, he will continue to become a mainstay in the team and not be another Ryan McLaren, who had been persuaded to come back to South Africa after starring in the domestic circuit in England with several other counties, Kent among them. Ryan Rickleton at number 6, and basically he comes into the team with the wicketkeeper Kyle Verreynne and left arm spinner Keshav Maharaj. Kagisa Rabada and Ngidi are the seamers, and Wian Mulder also finds a place in the 11. And as far as the West Indies are concerned, Moti is, of course, back in the team. It is, of course, Brathwaite and Louis at the top of the order. Kearse Carty makes a debut here, but pretty much the same play. And also Kemar Roach returns. Jamel Warakan also finds a place in the team, but Athanaze, Hodge, Holder, and De Silva and Seals are pretty much other remnants from the series against England. And obviously Shamar Joseph, some fitness concerns about him, and he has, of course, missed out. Kemar Roach making his return to the 11 after playing against Australia early in the year. And the absence of Alzari Joseph will lead the attack. And Wian Mulder, of course, will be the third seam alongside Rabada and Ngidi. And Keshav Maharaj will have to put in a long shift with the West Indies batting last on this pitch. South Africa unveiling a 7-4 split after opting to lengthen the batting lineup, with Ryan Rickleton coming in at number 6 and therefore having to bench a bowler. So the lack of a genuine all-rounder perhaps could be a bit of a problem for South Africa in a way. And of course, the update from this is that they're going at 3 and over with De Zorzi going great guns, 32 not out. They had, of course, lost the vice-captain Aiden Markram for a rather scratchy 9 off 34. And he and Stubbs are going fairly well at the moment. And it is, of course, stumps at the end of play. Rain having the final say, limiting play to a mere 15 overs, but play will resume at 9:30 tomorrow. And it will be interesting, of course, to see how the teams, perform in this series, and how the others, and how some of the other players will be hoping to try to get some mentions here. And this is the wicket, of course. Holder's first ball. Jason Holder, the former captain, having Markram's off stump flying apart, 125 kilometers an hour on the length, landing around the 4th and seaming back in. Skidded without much bounce. He wanted to defend with a straight bat and off the back foot, but the indications from the pitch saying that would have been a bit of an issue. Huge gap between bat and pad breached, and Holder doing a dance and celebration, and Markram having to walk back to the pavilion. And so that, of course, ended up being the last piece of action before the drinks were, in fact, taken. And if we take a look at the squads that were selected, obviously we know the we take a look at the West Indies squad first. Obviously, we know the playing 11, but other members of the squad include Tevin Imlach and Justin Greaves and Brian Charles, who are, of course, not in the test squad for this particular game and aren't expected to play. And Shamar Joseph, of course, is out probably with some injury issues. Warakan, of course, is the left-arm spinner who will play a role with Moti. Charles is more of an off spinner, and Justin Greaves is the pace bowling all-rounder. Withdrawals, of course, for Jeremiah Louis and Akeem Jordan. And Kirk McKenzie and Zachary McCaskey have also had to make way. McKenzie having a disappointing tour of England with 33 runs in 6 innings. And hopefully the West Indies can put up a bit of a better fight against South Africa. And if we take a look at the South African squad, Yep. So the updated squad, of course, saw Gerald Kutzer being ruled out because of a side strain, and Miguel Pretorius, uncapped at test level, but with 64 first-class games coming in as his replacement. And having taken 188 wickets in 64 games, currently the leading wicket taker for Somerset in this season's county championship with 23 wickets, but at a fairly high average of close to 40. And the squad, of course, Bavuma, Bedingham, Brietzke, and Nandri Berger. Brietzke and Berger are not in the side, of course. Neither is Patterson, and even Danny Piet, who also finds a way back into the squad, unexpectedly is also not named in the playing 11. But obviously, the other players mentioned are still there. Pretorius also not in the squad, but seems to be a fairly strong squad in theory, and we will, of course, find out how well they do. And of course, I am still waiting for Steve to hopefully come back in, and hopefully he will have something to say. Yeah, so we just had an update that so his Wi-Fi is being an absolute pain in the backside, so can't see him getting back on. But we will obviously, like when we do the Mr. B Chats England cricket show soon, we will talk a bit about the Sri Lankan team and what they can possibly offer, in the England series coming up, and see if they can, provide some stiff opposition. Another reminder from our host with the most saying, do like and subscribe if you haven't already. Chelsea fans saying that South Africa will win. And it could very well be that they might not win all three tests, but it could very well be a 2-0 series win for South Africa with one being drawn. But hopefully we will see a more competitive performance from the West Indies in this particular series. And, with nothing else to discuss, we've pretty much covered everything that we needed to cover, and we've just gone slightly over an hour. I do apologise, of course, on Mr. B's behalf as well, and also Mr. B has apologised for the fact that his Wi-Fi is being an absolute pain in the backside. But we've covered everything, and obviously, beginning on a sad note, we've ended on something really happier. But once again, let's also remind ourselves that with Graham Thorpe's passing, he will be very sadly missed. And thank you very much indeed. I did keep going, but he will be very sadly missed, and no genuine England cricket fan from the 1990s onwards will ever forget him. We will always remember his outstanding batting, the the pride he had in representing both England and Surrey, how he was in many ways, loved but also mistreated in equal measure, and hopefully now his star will shine even brighter. And I think the cricket faithful in the sky will be looking forward to a wonderful Ashes clash between him and that other legend, Shane Keith Warne. So rest in peace, Thorpe. Go with God, good sir. You will never, ever be forgotten. And with that, of course, hopefully being more respectful, we have come to the end. And we will keep talking a lot more cricket in the coming days and weeks. Obviously, there is still going to be some time before the start of the England Test Series, less than 2 weeks, in fact. But obviously, Hannah will be keeping eyes on the West Indies South Africa series, hoping that the South Africans will do quite well. And we will see what happens and see how things go from there. But until then, thank you all very much indeed for joining in. And until the next time we take the trip together off to the boundary, it's farewell to thee, goodbye, and God bless to all of you. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the Olympics coverage. Hoping to catch Matthew Holmes in the 400 meters final later on. I hope I'll get to see him and cheer him on. Hope he ends up winning something. 2 more medals for GB today in the velodrome in the cycling thing. And also, I do believe Neeraj Chopra from India will have his time to try and shine again in the javelin. So we'll see how things take their course. But for now, as always, we are out of here, people. I bid you all adieu. Take care of yourselves. Be happy. Do unto others as you'd have others do unto you. And don't do anything that Mr. B or I wouldn't do. Until then, we'll see you all very soon. Cheers, everyone.